Hi, I'm Tim Henley, and this is A Sunday Conversation. And today my guest is Mr. Archer Stotts. Archer began working on his college degree at Oklahoma City University back in 1948, and then a few years later he resigned from the university because he was called up to serve in the Korean War. Now, more than 60 years later, he's returned to OCU to finish his college degree at the young age of 80 years old. Now, let me ask you, Mr. Stotts, after all these years, why did you decide to go back to college at age 80?
Well, the main reason is because I hadn't finished my college, and all of the friends that we have, they've all got college degrees, and I just felt like I needed to go ahead and do that since I was going to semi-retire from work. I would have a little more extra time to do that.
Now, Wednesday was your last day, your first day back at class. Now, what was that like walking into the classroom?
Well, it was yesterday, Wednesday, and the class was American history since 1868, which started with Abraham Lincoln from to now. And there were some of the students that were saying he ought to be teaching this class because he's lived through half of it, you know. But it was kind of nerve-wracking also to see so many young people involved in the thing. But it was also good to see Dr. McComb, who had come back. She had been gone to the inauguration of Obama, and so she had firsthand experience. Good teacher that really had an experience of what history was like just yesterday, or day before yesterday. But she made it back for the classes yesterday. So anyway, that's kind of like what it was all about.
So how did your classmates react when they saw you walking in the door and sit down?
I could sense there was one a black gentleman that was tall, and so I went over and introduced myself to him because I knew he had to be a basketball player from my experience of basketball years ago in high school. And he said, "Yes, sir, I'm a senior," and he said, "This is my last year." And he says, "I've been on the basketball team, and we'll do as best we can finishing up." So anyway, I told him, I said, "Well, I'm going to be able to go to the game because I've got my student ID now, and I've got, along with this, having a student ID, you get to go to the basketball game. So I'll get to go to any more basketball games they have."
Now, you've been married for 59 years and you have 3 children.
Yes.
What did your family say when you told them you're going back to school?
Well, my wife said at first that she said I ought to go back then because I told her about last summer, the beginning of summer. And she said, "Well, honey, you don't need to wait till next year to go." Says, "Why don't you go right now?" And so I told her, I said, "No, I'm going to semi-retire when I reach 80, and I said I don't reach 80 till December 1st of this year, and which was last year. And so anyway, I called Rodney Grillo with the manager of the +1 program at OCU and asked him to send me a transcript copy of it, and he did. And so I looked at it, and then I got to thinking, well, I need to call and find out what the cost is of this. And the cost was $470 per credit hour. And I said, "Well, Rodney, I might as well send this back to you." I said, "I can't afford that at all. I just can't do it." And he said, he asked me some more questions, and then a couple of days later he called me and said, "Have you got time to come out here?" And I said, "Well, do you stay open until 5:30? And he says, "No, we usually close at 5, but if you need somebody to stay till 5:30, he said, I'll be glad to do that." And he's very accommodating. Anyway, I got on out there. I told him, I said, I'd be there at 4:30. And I got there, and he had a scholarship for 38 hours, which was what I needed to get my degree. And so when I went home, I showed my wife the scholarship that I had, and she said, "Oh, honey, I know you're going to have to go back to college now, so that's great." And then our daughter, who was in China at that time, she called home that Friday, and Marilyn was talking to her, and she said, "Your daddy's here." Said, "You want to talk to him?" Said, "Well, sure, I want to talk to him." Said, and she said, "He's got something to tell you." So I told her that I was going back to college and that I had a scholarship, and she was just elated because she teaches English over in China. She doesn't all the time. She goes over there twice a year for 3 months to relieve some of those people that are in her church and around, that other people that have volunteered to teach over there constantly. They're around. They live there now, and so Mike and Diane, our son-in-law, and our daughter have been spending quite a bit of time in China now.
So do you view yourself as a role model for other people your age?
No, not as a role model. All I can say is just don't give up. Don't give up. When you got something to do, just do it and do it right. And just don't ever give up. And I did. I gave up several years ago, and I wished I hadn't now, because it's going to be a little bit harder I'll be lucky to live this long to get my degree, really and truly.
Now, you're majoring in drafting and design. Do you know when you're expected to graduate?
Well, I think probably I'll graduate. Rodney feels like I should graduate in a year, but there's no way for me to get 38 hours in it. But he's saying that there's going to be some credit that I have because of the work that I've had and because of the time, effort of the schooling that I've had with the service. And so I don't know whether, I don't think he's right. I don't think I can get 38 hours in a year's time. I think I'll be lucky to get it in 2 years' time, really and truly.
And what do you plan on doing as soon as you get your degree?
I'm just going to show my friends that I've got a degree now, just like they had. My wife and I were the first ones to really, of our group, to get married, first ones to have children, the first ones to have a home of our own. And if it hadn't been for my wife, we wouldn't have a home, right? I mean, we wouldn't have had one when I got back. The last letter I got from her, it had teardrops on it, that's saying that the house that she's been looking at fell through. And the Lord has just blessed us so many ways, because the house that she looked at was on the back, the Lightning Creek was on the back side of it, on about northwest 40th, somewhere along there, 40th or 41st, I can't remember. But anyway, it had flooded. It flooded several times, and she found another house of a GI that had was doing stucco work, and the sheetrock industry was coming on strong. And he used to do wood lath and plastering for housing, and it was just going bad. And he was out of work, and he said, "I've got to go move to California." He had only had the house a year, and so Marilyn talked to him about what he wanted for his equity, and he wanted $900, and she said, "Well, all I've been able to save since my husband's been gone is $700. And she said, he said, "I got to have $900. And so she said, "Well, my husband will be home soon and we'll get mustering out pay, so we can give you a promissory note for $200. And so that's what we did. And it was a 4%, 25-year loan. We paid it to hang off. We lived there for 27 years.
All right, well, good luck to you with your degree at OCU.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it very much.
All right, thank you. Thanks for joining us today.
Okay, you bet.
And if you want to learn more about Archer Stott, you can pick up a copy of today's Oklahoman. I'm Tim Henley, and this is A Sunday Conversation.